So hello there everyone, and welcome to this video, to this sitting and transmission with me here today. It will be a little different video, and not just because we have today the solstice, which marks the first day of summer, and it's been a summer for quite a while here. It's difficult actually to find a shade. I had to work around it to find a spot around our house to record this video actually. But also because I have some interesting things to share on many notes. It's not yet the video I promised you about beloved Illumined Union, and I'm still getting guidance. I'm getting drawings. I actually channeled another drawing that's more like a galactic technical explanation, but I feel it will explain a lot that I was trying to share back then 3 years ago through my Cosmic Christ Awakening and Remembrance journey, and it just wasn't time yet. So I think it was best to present this also to a drawing, because some people on Patreon have been telling me how much my drawings have emphasized the meanings that, I emanate through the words and I can emulate it like this, but the drawings go much deeper. So I will share that, and it will be a kind of drawing I did in the past, when I did these channel galactic drawings, and it was literally for me a divine remembrance of sorts. So today, what a day, I'm going to share my experience that was a pivotal breakthrough point for our physical ascension journey. But also, before I begin with that, I want to tell you that probably this month of June, because I'm feeling it for a while now, will be not just in terms of my one-on-one communications and sessions, but also my Patreon, my Patreon work. Maybe I'm going to do some things, but my journal videos, I'm not going to limit myself, but I feel July and August will be, for the first time in my life after 12 years of this work, just for me. And so I'm kind of wrapping up with these videos, and I really wanted that beloved Illumined Union to be the last one, because I received so much guidance on our ascension and how it looks, and I just want to transmit it to as most of you who are here as possible, that the legacy of Illumined Union will continue even after I'm gone. And I'm not going to be gone, I'm still going to be present, but in a totally different reality. And as I've shared with you, I am feeling so close to home in a way, and yet still so anchored here because of some last things I need to finish. And it feels like I already shared, I'm 1 foot there, and that's why I've never been like this, that's how every great being knows when the time is coming. We always have known, and it's just a deep calling, and all the information I'm getting is about the technicalities of our ascension, how it would look like, our home, where we're going, how it's going to look like, who's ascending, who's not. So it's very much the technical details. I've actually had a 3-day retreat, Saturday, Sunday, and a prolonged one on Monday, because I wasn't yet done. I really needed to replenish, because there's this last wave of my work I need to finish up until the end of the month of June. And I'm going to wrap up with my last sessions. A few paid sessions I still have, but then I'm actually going to write on my page with huge bold letters that it's not available anymore. I still have to figure out how to, do the technicalities around Patreon, but I will figure it out with the people who are there. Maybe, someone would be willing to just, go through some technicalities with me, so that the content is still there, open to be received by initiates. And I just really would like that work to continue, even with me finishing my part of it and spreading it far out. But I really needed that retreat, and during that retreat I received a lot of insight. So I'll try to put that all in this one giant union compilation video, which will probably be the last one. But today, just because it's solstice, I really wanted to show up and share my experience of what happened here. But before that, I want to tell you that some people really positively surprised me, and that's the reason why I'm calling the topic for now. Not just because some messages I received as a new impulse of Divine Mother's love, and I've shared these messages already there in my Telegram mini community page and channel. You can visit whatever you want. These messages will always stay there, until they will because, you know, technology changes all the time. Nothing in this world is permanent. But what I was going at is that there was this huge outpouring and impulse we were receiving. And for me, as I've already shared on Telegram, like every solstice was really the most beautiful experience. But since these last 3 years, you know, even that has changed. And even today, there were so many polls, there were so many distractions, you know, like I was just ready to meditate and do the tantric healing, you know, for my condition, because I still have physical pain and it's coming out again through my nervous system, and I'm under quite a lot of pressure and stress now, and the body's feeling it. It's not easy to wrap up such a huge chapter, you know, not just of my life, but an entire mission journey of who we are here and our presence here. And it's not easy to wrap something so big up, you know. I'm trying to do my best, but I'm still being stressed. And so I was trying to do the healing, and these wasps started flying all around me and bugging me. And you know, wasps, as I've shared before, they're not divine creations. They're the opposite of what the bee is and the bee represents. So they're like attacking you in the most, you know, important moments. But what I wanted to share first through this notion of the grace of God is that what I'm seeing now as I'm wrapping things up, my communication that is one-on-one with a few people that I've known or I've assisted or helped to do liberation work here and there. Some people have really dedicated a lot of myself. I'm getting different responses, and I've gotten some responses and some emails from people I didn't even know they're there or watching me. It's been years, and they surprised me with a beautiful message and telling me things like, I believe you, you know, you're sinning, and they were sharing their stories with me, what they felt for themselves. And it was really beautiful for me to experience that, because, you know, even people joining Patreon all of a sudden, and I was thinking, well, now that I'm about to leave, everyone's coming, you know, and this is actually a good sign, because the sign is that the legacy is continuing and nothing ends, you know, when I'm halfway there, and I'm already halfway there, and I'm feeling it so closely now. And they're just, as I've shared, they're telling me that I have many questions. They can't answer all of them at once, because I'll share more in the Illumined Ascension video that, you know, a lot of things are still hidden for our mission. They've told me it's a guaranteed success, but they've also shared that there's things that they're still hiding, especially the link between me and my beloved, and we're going to mention that in this following. I hope it will be the last kind of summary video of this journey, because that was the emphasis of it all in the Illumined Seed we brought here. So yeah, some responses really surprised me, and I was seeing how the grace of God works through some people towards me. And even in the end, you know, the people that I've granted the last few sessions to, I felt like they have to be worthy of it. They have to be the right ones. You know, I'm not just going to put my time like out there for everyone. And even the mother in one of my transmissions, like Aurea, came and she said to me, you know, people, and especially the star children, they're always going to ask, but eventually you're going to have to say no, because your time has been served and you're moving onwards, and the children will be fine. The mother keeps stressing that out. And I've put so much content out there that, you know, I still hope that somehow after my, you know, transition, that people will be able to somehow access it. I'm just going to try to think into the best possible solutions before that. But other than that, I don't want to be attached to anything, no physical possessions and stuff. They told me that this is not important. It's not essential. They said only focusing on essential. And for me, it's not about the stuff I've acquired during this life. It's more like the tiny joys I felt and the legacy I've left behind. And the legacy was the teachings and all the people I triggered into a deeper knowing of themselves, also as in the path of the Illumined Union, as an illumined creation angel in the making, in a way, you know, like everyone is headed there in their own way, in their own cycle of evolution. But recently, some of my energetic communications with people were very diverse. You know, some were positive surprises, some were maybe more negative surprises, not so much negative, but, you know, some of the disappointments that I felt through some people that, you know, sometimes it's the people you invest the most in, that in the end they would disappoint the most. But when you're in that neutrality of God, you still love everyone. And I always tell people, I don't make opinions about anyone. You know, sometimes people feel like, oh, in the last moment they want to change my opinion of them. And this life is not about me having an opinion about anyone. You know, I just see people's highest potential, but I also see where they are currently. I also see what they could do better, what they could embody more, what they could dedicate themselves to. And I always tell people, what's most important is not so much this old awareness of constant processing and digesting. That's really old. Like, everyone who's going to be really courageous on this path of their own union and being a divine chosen one and choosing themselves. As I always say, you have to choose yourself first, you know. To really know you're a child of God and to serve God, you're going to have to give all of yourself, and you're going to have to devote yourself to the things that maybe before you thought they can stay hidden or unacknowledged. But no, this is the path. But it has so many rewards, I'll tell you that. And for me, I was already told by God that my biggest reward would not be physical things, but my ascension will be my reward. And I know that this physical world can't provide me with anything anymore. I've recently also shared a song. I've channeled a song in May. It's called Sending Back Home, and I shared it on Telegram as well. It's very dear. It was just channeled. All my songs have always been channeled in the moment. I don't have lyrics. I don't write the songs. The songs sing themselves through me as the Holy Spirit of life blesses me with these gifts that are these songs. That Aurea, as this beautiful being, this goddess of liberation, if I can even call her that, she's so many things, and she's been everything to me as her physical embodiment is Polona Aurea. But I want to say that, you know, sometimes things in the end will always surprise you, and sometimes it's, like I said, people who you've invested the most in the end, maybe they end up disappointing you. But when you're truly at peace with everything, you just take it like, you know, they each have their own journey, and at the end some people will have value for you and they will appreciate you, and some people wouldn't see it, and some people, you know, they only recognize the value once you're gone. It's always been like that. And what was also very surprising yesterday, there was such a beautiful beloved energy, and I was just lying there just staring at the water, the mountain river, for hours. And then I dozed off a bit because it was so hot. We were having such hot days, and you know, everything changes here and there, but for now this is how it was. And it was very hard to do anything, you know, in such heat, and I'm not used to it because I live in an area where it's mostly cold. And so I was just dozing off and napping, and suddenly I was awoken with the name of someone, you know, someone who I actually invested the most of my energy in the mission, Aurea investing through me, and I had such a deep calling to deliver, help deliver God's request for this being, for the soul. And in the end, I was so deeply mistreated, and suddenly I didn't even think about the person for such a long time, you know. Now I'm totally, now, since the last moment of that total surrender, like my path has like accelerated towards ascension, infinite fold, you know. And suddenly I'm awoken like out of that napping moment with their name, and suddenly I got a message, and the message was they're already being punished for how they ended up mistreating you at the end. And it was a huge violation, you know, because the gift that was offered was so pure. And I was shown things like, you know, I was even shown by my family like their thoughts at the end, like they've even had thoughts of that being a total waste and things like that, and that's a sin against God, you know. And God offering their chosen one to someone, and they've invested so much. And, you know, even beings like we've communicated with Jesus, because no one here, you know, we are all beings of love, illumined beings, illumined elders, we're all about love. But there also has to be law and love, which is the love of truth and the truth of love, right? We've talked about this. And even Jesus, as the sovereign ascended illumined master, he said, you know, no one here is about punishment, but there has to be justice in this universe. And so when someone goes and sins against God, they will be punished. And it's not the kind of punishment that's, you know, you would think, oh, God is vengeful. Not like that. But it's the kind of punishment, it's the only way to make someone think and contemplate on what they did. Because otherwise the universe just goes crazy and crazy, you know, there's no repercussions. And I was just woken up with this message and was really surprised. It just came out of the blue. And then I asked, where did it really come from? And even Florentina, she says to me, well, it came from God. And the funny thing was we were not even together in that moment, because I put her hammock way across somewhere in the forest, and I was by the river. And later, towards the ending of our time, of our stay there, we come together and we'd sometimes share our guidance of what came through. And she was telling me about her ascension, and she went straight to God because she still had some questions. And God said, you know, the thing I admire about you most, Florentina, God said, is that not just your qualities, you have amazing divine qualities, and you've purified and refined yourself and chiseled at yourself as a precious diamond. But he said, the most thing that I really appreciate out of all, he said to her, is how you were to Polona Aurea, because she is my chosen one. He literally tells her, and God says to her, she, as Polona Aurea, she has a special spot, a special seat in my table. You know, many beings do. And God says, because she is precious. And the thing with most people is they always say, well, we're all equal. God loves us all equally. And I'm not talking about that we're not equal. I'm saying is the beings who are serving God more than others, because that's a fact. These beings God takes close in God's proximity more than others who are still venturing out, and most of them even forgot who they are as God, you know. And so these beings have a special seat at the table of, is the best way we can describe it, right? And that's why God says to her, this is what I appreciated the most. And God showed me a while ago that everyone who was ever kind and gracious towards me, everyone will be rewarded. And they will be super rewarded, and they're going to get blessings of massive spiritual growth. And people who've been the opposite, who are arrogant, and in a way also through that very abusive, because people don't realize when they run away from the truth, but if you continuously like pull the chains at someone and letting them know, yeah, but it's actually a no, and it's kind of this indecisive, that's also a sin, because you keep provoking someone who's there to serve you as a God servant. It's not just someone trying to give you advice, and you know, they're not doing it of their own selfishness. You know, all the things I've done is because God asked me to, and everyone I helped to liberate is because God asked me to. I didn't have to, but God said, look, these and these, would you agree? And I just said, yes, of course. And because I've finished with all the assignments that I was given in this life, I'm now ready to go, and I'm free to go. That's the thing. And every time I went to God, because, you know, we can go straight to God, but most people forget it, and that's why I always say gurus, they're like a double-edged sword, because at the same time, you know, they kind of give you a specific awareness about something, and at the same time, they're always going to be your barrier, something or someone you need that stands before you and God. And I've been different because I've been telling you how important it is that you yourself get illumined, that you yourself get yourself on this path. And some people have really intrinsically integrated that, and they've been taking it in, and some people just were triggered to that, and they were thinking I'm just BSing them and just nonsense and talk, and that's why a lot of people still don't believe, and they're disbelievers, and it's fine by me. And even God, you know, sees that as a sin, because God would say, then why are you watching? And why are you then criticizing? Then why are you watching? And God says, let those watch who are worthy of watching, who are worthy of witnessing the greatness. And so as you're going to see in some of the last channelings I'll share with you through my team, Aureus, they were talking to me about how Ascension is truly not just what we think it is. It goes through many, many realms. It goes across the realms, and how Illumined seeds, as those of us who are Illumined elders, were planted in these systems of let's just say corruption and defiance from God. And these seeds are now all receiving the clarion call to return. And they said, we're now sending out a clarion call to all Illumined intelligences. They said, we're gathering intelligences now, and through the grace of God, we're now telling everyone, we're letting everyone know that our beloved is coming home, and that beloved is you. And so I was that beloved in this lifetime. I was the beloved of God. I was the beloved of my team. I am the beloved of myself. I am my own beloved's beloved. And I'm also many of yours, beloved, because those of you who love me, you know, I loved you back. And I even loved those who didn't love me. And I've helped them, you know, even if they didn't want to always, and they were stubborn and ignorant. And the thing is, like I said, there's this saying that God has a stick for every butt. That's in our language. And it's not really a mean saying. It's just, if you have so many grants offered to you, and they're beautiful, and each one of them you would deny, then in the end, there's only the stick. Their shtick left, right? And masters would laugh at that. Remember when I shared that masterful video with you, how sometimes masters get very feisty, you know? And the thing with me is, I was many things. I was multi-layered. I wasn't just a master or just like this human. I was all of it. And God often told my mother, so she could get to know me better as a source being, not just who I am as her daughter or Polona, but who I am as Aurea. And he told her years ago that I'm multi, that I'm everything, that I go all the way up to Elohim. And the thing with me is I can bring it all back to earth. Like, many people have the link, but they don't embody that yet. They can't pull the link through their body entirely. And this is why God said to my mother years ago that, and this is what I'm special at, because I can really bring everything down to the ground. And it wasn't so much for me, like me being that. For me, it was like, look, you can be that too. But start somewhere, you know, start with those first few steps. So maybe in the first few videos that I made years ago, there were still very general topics. But, you know, we begin simply. We begin with opening up. And then topics of life begin to be more and more complex and intense. But the thing about life is, don't get afraid. Don't be scared of life. A lot of people like, oh, shrivel up, and they get triggered and they stop responding to life. But this is a part of the path of mastery. You have to respond to life. You can't ignore things and close off and ghost yourself and ghost others and withdraw emotionally and make assumptions and all these things. They're not really coming from maturity. And I've been talking about these few things in the last few videos I made. But today I just want to pour all of my love here to all of you here watching. And for me, even though my life was very difficult, it was a miracle. I mean, it's like, even for me, it's a miracle. Like, how can a being like Aurea just become an embodiment that it's a human? Like, even for me, you know, that's a miracle. Like, how could I know all these things in spite of being so punished by the devil and Lucifer and, you know, camaraderie and all of that? And how could I just survive the worst electrical attacks and all these things? Like, how is that even possible? Sometimes I would ask God, and God is, because you're so close to me. You know, every time I would get that, and I never shriveled up. I never closed myself off. Even people who've hurt me, if they were open to communicate again, I was there. But at a specific point, God wants everyone now, because we are at the conclusion time. I told you, the destinies were sealed. Everyone has sealed your destiny in this cycle. We're talking about this cycle. I'm not saying you've sealed it for good and that's that for you. No, this is not a predeterministic life. It's a life of openness, but we're talking about this life. A cycle was given, a cycle was open, opportunities were given, and whoever hasn't jumped the gun, you know, who hasn't been there, you know, will not have a gate open now in this life. But they will have, as I've said, an opportunity of a few more lives and perhaps elsewhere, and they will have to go through some of the things that will also in the end lead them to what it means to truly be a humble and devoted one of God, because in the end that's who we are, children of God, pure, loving, open to service. Like, if God asks, you deliver, because you are the hand, the feet, and the heart of God. We are, the human is the heart of God, the one that walks through this plane of creation with such sovereign will to do as God does in divine alignment, which means your will is one with God's. That is an almighty power. That source itself, you know, being all life together, cannot in such an individual way do. And our individuality, sorry guys, we're so amazingly powerful, and yet the darkness has been telling us that we're not, because we're this tiny cut off part from source, fallen aspect. And yet it was them that was fallen all along, not us, not the beings of light that know God. And sometimes they forget for a while, but they know God. And as you know, you can't just know God in being wise about things and reading scriptures and knowing scriptures by heart, but living like this with total surrender, devotion, and maturity. Because, you know, when someone faces you up with a challenge, you have to be ready and respond. You can't like, oh, and be a victim, you know. Because when you're a victim, you're always going to be triggered and act upon on others and blaming them. And in the end, you know, I even had to tell some people, like, you know, even in the end, my ascension and my choice and who I am and what I've communicated now, if you're using that as the way it makes you feel, then you're still selfish, because it is not about my ascension making someone feel a certain way. And if they do, then they have to know my ascension is between me and my high spirit, and me and God and my beloved. And in the end, you know, you can only tell these people, you know, go before God, be humble before God, and ask yourself, why were you like this? And why were you like this towards someone who's a chosen one of God, who are only here to serve you? Can you not see? Can you not see their devotion to you? Because they're devoted to God, they're devoted to you. People don't understand that. It's not a vertical thing, being devoted to God. By being devoted to God, you're devoted to the people. And if you're not, then that's still that new age BS, which is kind of like God is a vertical source, and everyone else, you know, like people who use that as an excuse. Oh, I'm so divine, I only go to God, like I only answer to God. Well, still a little tricky, right? When you think about it that way, how people get all these excuses, and until you are all about excuses and descriptions, explanations, you're still being philosophical. And God is really not a great philosopher. God is the great divine child that is also so wise that look about everything that God brought about. I'm not saying this world, and even though it's fallen, it's still beautiful because it was created by the divine, right? It was just tempered with, I'm going to say like that. Doesn't mean that the essence was not divine. So I'm just going to say that in the end, it always shows who's chosen what, who's communicated what, who's been really truly devoted. Like in the end, it's coming forth to me who is truly devoted to me. And by being devoted to me, it means they were devoted to God. Because in this life, I was the illumined seed. And maybe a few others, but I never met them. That's the thing. If they are somewhere, then I was probably unaware of them. Maybe some random part of the world that I don't even know about, like Papua New Guinea, something like that. But I'm just saying is that the one that is in front of you is the one, and the one that speaks this word of the divine. And too often in this realm, people see when it's too late, and then like, oh. And when the energy ripples out and the legacy will be left behind, it's like, you know, in Jesus' example, when there was this huge storm going about. And there's many stories, you know, and only God truly knows what happened. God and, whoa, and every being who was their God sent, their chosen one, either son or daughter. And so those of you who are really, really loyal and appreciative of me and ever supported my work in any sort of way, but did it out of heart. Not, for example, when I talked about energy support and donations and you felt like, oh, maybe I should donate to come out across a certain way. No, but those of you who ever have done anything really purely from your heart, because you felt like this, you know, not like when you tell someone something and then they would respond strategically, but you did it out of your own heart, out of your own awareness. You felt this was the right thing to do. This is what God recognizes. God doesn't recognize strategies and, you know, how it will come across and how it will come out. It's not the language of God. God is this organic spontaneity that's based on love. Okay, my dear, so if anything, besides the teachings that are now slowly ending, and the last video will share some of those that are somehow really relevant for me and the entire Illumined Beloved Ascension. But apart from that, I just wish to transmit my own happiness in terms of, yeah, going home, but also my... I'm not going to say well-being because my physical life here wasn't really based on well-being. I suffered a lot. I mostly suffered to do the work of God because it is hard to be a truly chosen one, to do the illumined work through all this darkness. And where I was kind of pushed by God to bring the beautiful essence of God to the worst of the worst. Even the environment I lived in was very, like people say, well, it's beautiful, yeah, from afar, but it can also be very harsh most of the year. You know, summers are short. Cold is a constant, snow is a constant, and people are very dense here and very rigid because, you know, when it's warmer, people are so warmer and happier. When it's cold, people are so colder and not so happy and attentive. And I just want to express my gratitude for all those of you who've somehow been there and not just said something because you felt you need to, but because you came out of you. It didn't come out of need or expectation, or it really came out of you. And I just want to thank you. And in the end, you know, everything is revealed. If it's not yet revealed, it means it's not the end. But for me, those words that Jesus also spoke, which are, you know, it is done, it is complete, are coming near. They're very much close. And although the mission work has been completed, you know, the final mission stage, as my Illumined peeps are saying, is this preparation for ascension and getting the right data and the right time. And because it's so crucial that I stay aligned all the time, which means they're going to give me information in each right moment so darkness can hijack it, means I have to be very much open just to that and don't have any distractions. It's because of that. It's not because I'm isolating myself or ascension needs to be about isolation. It's not coming from that space, but it is coming from a space that it's just, I don't even know how to call it, but it's just a space of awareness, of discernment. It's how it needs to be, because it's not an easy thing. These beings that we are, that the team is, it's a compilation of many beings, and each one has their own specific task in the entirety of the Illumined Ascension. But you have to know that each illumined being, once they come as the seed, and usually there's only one, like Jesus said that cycle was only one, that illumined being is God's beloved. In that cycle, they are the chosen beloved who goes. And all of God's love and devotion in that cycle goes to them, because they're the ones who agreed to do this. They're the ones who chose this themselves, but also God has chosen them. It's kind of like, you know, their will is one with God's. So it's very synonymous. But because of this, it doesn't mean that, oh, you're a blessed one of God, your life will be easy. No, that's why so much love and support goes to these beings, because these missions we have are difficult. And someone just today said to me from my group that only now, slowly, they're getting to feel what Jesus had to experience. You know, and I said to them, you know, it wasn't just Jesus. It wasn't only his crucifixion. As me, as Polona Aurea, as Aurea, and Aurea is just like Jesus was the Christ, I am Aurea. Because you have to know, in different terms of what we are in constellations of life, Christ is, I'm going to explain that in the next video, is a specific focus of that region we call Sirius, and their focus is only on Christ consciousness. Where I'm coming from, we do liberation work. So Aurea literally means the spirit of liberation. And whenever type of work I was doing, that was the work. So because that was the work in itself, I was literally going in these most difficult energies. And even Jesus himself once said to us that from regards of totality of our mission, that's all of our illumined beings as one in different cycles of life that God was sending us here to this fallen realm, in terms of a greater golden spiral unfolding for the great divine plan of God as divine orchestrator of life, is that when Jesus said to me, yours was even harder because of the implications of these death ray and these electric energies that were going into your body for so many years, and they almost killed you, you know? And because it was a very dangerous mission, like everyone is. All the missions are, but you have to know the more darkness is trying, the more complex these missions and tasks are of illumined beings here. And it doesn't mean because we're the chosen one of God, our life is easy and we're blessed and we have riches. And you know, if you've seen my house, you've known that this is not what it is. I mean, the surrounding is beautiful, but you know, and speaking of my house, I have to tell you this last thing that for me, it's my own solstice experience today. What happened was, you know, first I wanted to give an implication of this, what took place as a teaching or Patreon, but then Spirit said, you know what, just share it with everyone. It doesn't have to be a teaching, because everyone, when they're ready, they're going to receive those impulses on their own. So, you know, in the last few videos, I talked to you about the inception plan and how we were manipulated through this house and how it was also part of the hologram. And I didn't exactly know, I was doing hologram work, right? But I didn't have an entire picture. So once, you know, we received guidance, so this is the root of evil. And then the next day it was like, no, but you brought so much love here. It's not the root of evil anymore. But what took place, right? Because it's not just that the house is as it is, you know, and people would say, well, then you make money and, you know, help comes. No help ever comes here. And it's less and less. And it's always so difficult to do something, to get someone. It's almost like there was a shield, right? So today we felt a strong impulse. I was like, no, we have to do this. So we came here to the Elven Garden because just in those very important moments, someone does something. So someone was mowing the lawn, you know, with the electrical, like, oh God, you know, I'm like, okay, I know it's something important. And I always know the noisier it is, the more the energy is pushing us to do the great work. So we came here, it's a little quieter in the back, here, just, you know, in the corner of the forest. And we sit here and I start doing the invocation. First, we always do our Christ invocation, and then I start channeling. I always bring in the circle of our illumined team. We always go in the unanimous circle that we are one in our golden circle, and we're one in harmony, synergy, and co-creation of serving God as one and the triune self, which is God as one and God as love, wisdom, and power, which is the triune nature of God, the threefold flame of all life in creation. So we ask for the dispensations of the golden spiral of the mother's golden womb to be given. And the moment I entered this, I started entering Aurea. It's like Aurea came through me, and she was vehemently speaking her light language. And when it's dark energy, she starts yelling in this language. So she suddenly shows me this perspective and starts speaking it, and then also explaining with words that are, you know, English and my language explained. And it was shown how this house, as you know, everything in this realm has roots now, has been turned over into darkness, like a lot of these darker creations. And I told you how in the beginning, this creation was a Luciferian co-creation with this house, right? And how we brought a lot of love, and it was true. But there was still something, and only today we got to the core. And at first I was like, why only today? Why didn't I get this sooner? And remember, everything in divine timing. And Aurea was saying that both of us now needed to be at a specific space in our consciousness to bring this forth, that it could move through us, because it was so huge, it was so big. And what actually was shown, like she was showing, is this whole house at the core, like at the truth, at the core of its roots. It was anchored to Hades, which is literally the underworld. And this is like the dark devil, which we know as the reptilian consciousness, you know, the ones that work underneath the ground. And then she showed me a linkage right up to the astral heaven. You know, the people, when they say, we go to heaven, that's not really heaven. That's astral heaven. That's a place of recreation, you know. Who was this great New Age teacher? She always used to say, oh, everyone lives in the heaven, and the birds and your pets. I'm like, that's not heaven, you know, that's high astral, and it's like, this is what it is, you know. And you go there and you meet aspects, and oh, hi, you know. And so they were showing me how dark, the dark core is Hades, right? Really, the underworld is linked together. They can hold creation, and it's like in its space, right? And it's holding at the root as the Hades, and then linked into the astral heavens, which is literally a hologram and how it works through. And it's kind of the synergy of both, and they can flow. And because of this, and the work hasn't been yet done through the core, because Aurea, the only way for her to do this is that I'm aware of it, and I bring this forth through my body. Well, she brings this forth through my body. And all of a sudden, she starts doing the light language, and we're calling all the teams, and we even call the Algoran, right? The great three elder consciousness, and everyone who was willing, and the Illumined Elementals, right? And so, remember once I told you that she uses this language that's called the language of the dark or the corrupt elementals, like almost like she's chasing them away. And then we had to engage Florentina and her gifts, her ancient shamanic gifts that even now I saw. They're not actually a bird, they're from the stars before she even came here as a being. And so we go into this deep space, this deep transmission, and all of us working as one. And Aurea came, let's pulsate this away. And she saw like these dark tentacles going all the way and around. So when they did this work, they kind of started dissolving into thin air. And at the last stage, when all these, we went through the steps, like we literally had to pull the house out of the dark core, because the house, as a creation, the house is just a pile of bricks, you would say, yeah? But energetically, everything has its energetic twin. So this energetic double was anchored deep into the Hades, right? And that was in the end my final initiation with creation. I was shown this, why this was left for the end, and I was so like, why now? I had to suffer so much in this freaking house, you know? And constant energetic, that's why I have to go to retreat, you know. Even the previous building, I had to always go away, and now even I'm in the house and it's still the same. So the reason why I always have to go, and you might think I'm just enjoying, no, because here I'm always so depleted that then I have to go and replenish. So I needed these 3 days. On Friday we went to these energy points and we visited some people, I said, in the hills, and then I needed 3 days. And when I'm there, I don't feel any pain, I don't get any symptoms, I'm just in my peace somewhere in the wild nature, you know. And the difference is, the moment I got here home yesterday evening, the energy shifts and I get pain here again and all these things. I'm like, oh, it's just so bad, because energetically the hook was still there. And so today we're just like uprooting it and anchoring it then into the golden spiral through the grace of God and the grace of the Mother, and literally kind of translating it and anchoring this house now to the illumined seed of the planet as the illumined core that still exists. It's not a physical manifestation, as you can see, but it's still an illumined core that has been left intact by the greatest elders that sometimes you call people in the Shambhala or things like that. That's, with our words, is the illumined core of the planetary template that's still there. It's still intact, because otherwise, let me tell you, the world would already go to the shizzles if that was not intact. And even with all that you perceive on the outside happening, and the fall and the abyss, and all the corruption and evil and greed and, you know, control, still at the seat, at the root of this illumined seed of the earth, there is this purity maintained by these great beings who sing songs of life of creation, just like creation angels that are not anchored into the cores, right? So even like you would have central stations like central suns, at the core of these suns you would have these beings, again, they sing the songs like these creation angels. They sing the songs that God tells them to sing to keep life alive and living in flow, right? So all these levels had to be literally uprooted. And suddenly, right, towards the end, there was this beautiful final saying that then we went straight to God, and Aurea was like, go to God now, let's ask God. God, now this creation, right, was fallen, it was given to me, and I suffered through it. Now I give it to you, God, I give it to you, I surrender this house to you. Make again a living testament, change it, like literally transform it back into Illumined core. And it was like, bring me back now, the refined gift, bring me back, return me. Because that's for me and for my ascension and for my truth. I don't even remember the words now. It was just coming out of the channel so beautifully. And it was so strong. And my mother was crying all the time because she was so sad as well because of what we had to experience in these last few years and how robbed we were of physical pleasure and of physical well-being. And we were cold all the time and, you know, constant stress. And God knows that. And at the end, when you're truly going to the very core and the grace of God, when your human meets God, and then the human I was saying things from my human perspective, like, God, I was so much suffering here, I had so much pain, I didn't enjoy, I didn't have this, I had a little bit of that, but that was so little. Now show me, God, how much you love me, show me how much you love me, show me how much you love me, transform this, bring my illumined creation back to me, I am a creation angel, I can do this. And then at the end, it's like we were holding it and surrendering it to God, and then God made a spiral and it came back to us. And then I channeled myself, I know, God, beloved divine creator, you need some time, although there's no time, but here on the earth, things to crystallize and to be refined. And I totally trust you. I surrender into you. I trust you that you will do this. And then we let go. And this is how all my great liberation work took place. I had to bring my Aurea's essence as the goddess of liberation and the giver of life to everything that was fallen. I had to bring it to the papal system once. I had to bring it to the bank. I had to bring it to the financial, government system. Because remember, I told you these examples, what they tried to do to us. And it was all a hijacking, that these beings enforced upon us. And it wasn't righteous. It wasn't fair. And every single thing so far, I did it, and that was my initiation as Aurea on this planet. Like, if I could do these breakthroughs, and Aurea said through us today, she says, like, the reason why you two had to wait so long to have that final initiation and us doing this, all of us together through you, is because there had to first be enough love that you were pouring into this house so you could learn how to do this with physical creations. Because now we're going to create not just this for you in your house and this situation that will help you to ascend so you can have that peace and not have a constant isolation, because we were so isolated here and we were waiting for help but no one coming, and it was always just blockages all the time. And that's not of God. If you think that is of God, it's not. Because if you're serving God, you're supposed to always get back the divine gifts. And whenever it's not so, it tells you there's something fishy here. And it's always the dark. It's always the same answer. Don't try to go in the mind, yeah, maybe I'm doing something wrong. The only thing that's wrong is you're not seeing it yet. And that's why I've been leaving all these videos and my examples and my stories, that when your time comes, everyone can do this liberation work. And you can call on Aurea, and Aurea will come. Because all great beings come when you genuinely ask. They are always there. When you're worried, when your intention is genuine, it's not out of selfish, greedy means, but it's to do and perform great liberation work, to really remember that you are a divine one, and this was our work and legacy in this time. And she said, it's going to leave a lasting imprint into the sphere of this planet, and others can do it too. So I would say, God bless the one, and blessed will be the one that will have this house after we're gone, because the house has been reworked, has so much love. We've done this, like excavated it out of this darkness now and everything. Blessed is the one who is going to somehow, I don't know how, it's in God's hands, because we were literally told, don't be bothered by this, because we made some inquiries into the law system and it's pretty corrupt unless you have it all notarized and this and that. And even then, there can be appeals and, your relatives and all this. And as you know, we don't really have nice relatives, those that are still here. And the thing is, my faith in God is so ultimate that I know that God will make sure that the right person gets this house. The one who will somehow be meant to get it and sustain it and, be happy here. Because it's not a bad place, guys. It is beautiful. And for someone who loves this physical world and still has challenges here and wants to grow, and someone who's honest and genuine, I think this place can still serve as a home. And I think everything goes like this chain of events that unfolds God's plan for every single thing. Like, imagine God planned every single detail, because God is not just the truth, but God is also grace. and mercy and compassion. And all of it together is love. Divine love, immaculate love that God is and holds for every one of us. But the more we serve God, the more we know this love. That's the point. It's not that we're special in a way, but the more you serve God, you know yourself as God. This means the more you're going to feel this love. And if people are complaining, I can't feel this love, I'm not feeling it. You know, I had someone who always complained, I'm not feeling it, I'm not feeling it. Well, the reason is you're not feeling it because you're so away from God that you can't feel it anymore. And you know, the victim inside of you would say, yeah, it's everyone else's fault. No, it's your fault, sorry. Because unless you're really pure and your intention is to serve others, no, you're going to create your own hell on earth, you know. For these beings, it's not necessarily the devil, but you yourself is not choosing God. And it is what it is. So I hope this story was an inspiration, because it's like this had to be liberated, because otherwise, I don't know what would have happened, but I think it wouldn't have, because it was all planned anyway. And it was, as always, all my transmissions, all our transmissions happen in the right moment. And I can't say mine, because it's always a we, you know. Illumined realm and illumined beings, we're always a we. We're a team, and we're fellowship, and we're a legacy. So during the solstice, I know it was hard, and it's getting kind of stormy now. As you can see, the weather changed. But it's all perfect, you know. It's really, really all perfect. And I think couldn't have been better than as it is right now. So I will leave it at that. If this story inspired some of you, you know, when your time comes, I showed you, I gave you the steps how you can do this great work. And at the end, my mother went into a channel, I had to do something, and Jesus came. You know what he said? He said, I'm honored that I was able to participate in this today, because this was immense, he said. This was, wow, we are doing it together, he said. And we're different beings, we're from different stellar regions in this universe, but we're all Illumined elders, you know. I'm no different than Jesus, I'm just different in the way that I'm a different being in a different region of this universe. I don't come from the same space, but we have the same respect, and we all meet in these high lumen councils, and we have our gatherings, and we contribute our different angles on how to, you know, uplift life and bring life back to the source of illumination, which is true intelligence of life, that is God, that is wholly immaculate and illumined, and therefore always pure. So yeah, today I'm still overwhelmed by everything. There's so many things happening at once. I am overwhelmed. So I know some of you mean so well. And I don't need all of you to send me emails or, you know, thank yous. I just, you know, just send it from your heart. I'll feel it, I'm sure, you know, because sometimes, you know, even if I get too many emails, that's also a distraction. So I do appreciate it. You know, when you truly appreciate, God sees you. I don't have to see it. You know, someone said to me, oh, my last words to you. I don't need someone's last words to me, you know, but for some people, I said the last words to them. Maybe those words they needed to hear to begin their own liberation journey in their own way, and realize that it's a journey. It's not by one event over. Just like in my life, right? I had to demonstrate so many liberation tactics, but they were now brought forward. They live here on the planet. They were brought here. That was my mission, was not to make videos. The videos were for you to hear, to be witnesses, and to gather that same information, to use it when your time comes, when it comes, if it comes. But trust me, it was planted. The Illumined seed was planted, and it is done. And so in this last video, when I'm going to talk about the Illumined Beloved, it will be more of a excitement video, because that's most dear to my heart. But sometimes, you know, we also have to talk about more difficult things and challenging topics, because they're also part of this world. So as you can see, it's getting windy, the weather changed, so I'm going to leave it at that. I just want to wish you from the bottom of my heart a happy solstice, and thank you again, all those of you who've supported me. And some of you know you've supported me so much. Words would fail me, so just know I'm so grateful. I know that everyone who's ever served me, and me serving God, they've served themselves in the right way, in the illumined way, and they were not resisting or rebellious or resenting or triggered. They were simply loving in that moment. They felt called to help or assist or send a loving thought or a wave. But mostly, what you can give me with the most is having faith in me, that I will do it, that I will succeed, that I will ascend, because my ascension will ripple out to all beings who are telling me, I also want to ascend when my time comes. People keep telling me, I also want to leave this plane when it's time. I really do. And trust me, when I ascend, it will help many people's ascension when their time comes. So when you're praying for our ascension, for my ascension, you're praying for all the beings who want to ascend. Because that's how merciful and just God is, and we're all a part of God's grace. So go to Source, go to your beloved Creator, be humble before God, and God will answer everything to you. Not all questions directly, but trust, because some people get like, oh, I didn't get my question answered, so you know, their nose goes like Even I, as a human being, I didn't get everything answered all the time. I had to be so patient. Lots of time before I got my answers, I had to literally do the breakthrough, and then the answer came when I already finished my breakthrough. So have your faith, not just in scripture, in word. Word is great. The word is sacred, it's divine, but it's in our demonstration that we show our divinity in actuality, and that's when we graduate for real. So thank you, my loves. As always, so much love, wisdom, and power. I'm going now. I'm going to be gone with the wind, so see you in the next one, but then I'll see what I see. For now, that's that, and enjoy the rest, the beginning and the rest of your summer. Take care. Lots of love. Bye.
Come into